All right, guys, blink and you'll miss it because this resume is about as short as a resume can be for a head coaching candidate in the NFL. We've got Bobby Slowik on deck here, and it's going to be over quick, so pay attention. There isn't a lot to talk about, there isn't a lot to go into. This is the definition of swinging not only for the fences, you are swinging for the 600-foot home run. And if you don't make contact, you're going to look stupid. But if you make contact, you're good for a long time potentially. You could have this guy for 20 years, no problem. Age will not be any kind of a factor. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice consideration, but man, you are betting heavily on 1 year with Bobby Slowik. So let's go through the resume. Again, this isn't going to take too long. Basically, he was the Houston Texans offensive coordinator this most recent year, working with C.J. Stroud, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and them boys, Laramie Tunzel. And before then, he was a Kyle Shanahan protege in San Fran. So he's going to be 37 next year when the season starts, 37, very young. And look, he did pretty good as the Houston Texans offensive coordinator last year. Under DeMeco Ryans, they were 13th in points scored, 22.2 points per game. And they had a negative .023 EPA per play, which is actually slightly above average for this year, 15th, so call it average. Again, I have to ask, yes, he's got, in Houston, he has theoretically a better quarterback. I actually don't think so. I don't think CJ Stroud's a better overall play-to-play quarterback than Geno Smith right now. He will be, I'm sure, but not right now. But he's got a much better offensive line in Houston than he would in Seattle this most recent year, right? His offensive line is much better. He did sustain some injuries to his receivers as the year went on, but throughout the year he had good receivers. Until Tank Dell went down, they had good receivers. They had a good running game, I believe, for most of the year. So the fact that the EPA per play is significantly worse in Houston than it was for Seattle, I got to ask the same question I asked with Canales. If you're going to give Bobby Slowik the head coaching job because of this season, why not just give it to Shane Waldron, who's had more offensive coordinator experience and produced markedly better results with a garbage offensive line? Even this most recent year, our EPA was actually much higher. So, I don't know. Obviously, you're betting on him being on the come up. You're betting on him improving. But I got to ask, because before the Houston Texans job, he was in San Fran working under Kyle Shanahan, and we all know who runs the offense there. We all know who's responsible for the offensive brilliance in San Francisco. It's not Bobby Slowik. It's not any of their offensive coordinators. Some of them have been good, don't get me wrong. Mike McDaniel was part of that staff. LaFleur was, I believe. So I'm not hating on him, but this is all we have to go on in terms of performance outside of the sphere of influence of Kyle Shanahan. So, color me dubious just a little bit on this one. Because the year before, he was the passing game coordinator for San Fran. They had an average to slightly above average number of passing yards, and their dropback EPA was great. It was fourth in the league. The year before, basically the same deal, slightly above average in passing yards, 2021. Their dropback EPA was elite, top 5. So great, that's awesome. But then again, you got to ask yourself, how much of that is Bobby Slowik? How much of that is Kyle Shanahan? I'm willing to bet it's a little bit of Slowik and a lot of Shanahan. 2 previous years, he was the offensive assistant, 2019, 2020. 2020 was obviously the bad year for San Fran. They had some injuries that they couldn't overcome. Bad offense, 21st in points per game. Pretty much a dead even EPA, which was 21st in the league that year. So bad offense. 2019, he was an offensive assistant, and that was obviously the year Jimmy Garoppolo went to the Super Bowl. They scored about 30 points a game, which was second in the league. .077 EPA per play, which is 5th. So that's really good. That's cool. But before then, before 2019, he wasn't even an offensive coach. He was trying defense. And I'll tell you, it was not good. I guess he switched over to offense because he realized defense was not his thing because he was a defensive quality control coach for 2 years in San Fran, 2017 to 2018 under Shanahan again, and 2018 the defense was awful in PPG and EPA, and the year before it was also really bad, 25th in points per game, 25th in EPA per play. Oh, by the way, I forgot to add in the team here. So there was actually a big gap in between the job he had previously to the 49ers and the job he had at the 49ers, by the way, in case you're wondering. So in 2017, he gets brought on by Shanahan for his staff after several years of taking a break after trying to be a defensive assistant in Washington. And this went poorly too. You can see one of the worst defenses in the league in 2013. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having all kinds of technical difficulties today. Bad defense in 2012 and a pretty bad defense in 2011. So 3 lackluster years. And I'm not going to pretend like that's his fault. He was a defensive assistant, but he's involved in it. We can only evaluate what's in front of us. And until he started getting involved with the offensive coaching staff here in San Fran, where again he's riding the coattails of Kyle Shanahan, one of the biggest offensive geniuses out there, it's actually kind of hard to say much about him. And again, Houston, yeah, the results are pretty good. He was working with a rookie quarterback. There were some talent deficiencies, and I know he looked really good in that game against the Browns a couple days ago, and I know he's done good things, but the body of work is slightly above average. Shane Waldron was slightly above average last year with the offense that we had, which, again, the offensive line, it's not even close. Not that Houston has a great offensive line, but it's a lot better than ours. So, I don't know. The more I looked at this one, the more I kind of cooled off on it. By the way, that's literally it. There's nothing else in his resume. I think he was like a high school coach before 2011. Nothing that we can evaluate, right? So, Bobby Slowik, he's obviously on the rise. If he can have another couple seasons like he just did in Houston and build on it in a positive way, sure. But right now, this is a little much, man. This is a little bit. It feels like we're jumping the gun here. It just feels like it's a little overzealous to me. So, if we hire him, there's going to be some level of excitement because he's young, because he's a hot shot. He's one of these young offensive guru guys. And maybe it works out. But this resume is not really buttering my biscuit, I got to admit. It's just a lot of riding the coattails of Shanahan. Presumably you learn things under Shanahan, but how much did Matt Nagy learn under Andy Reid? Apparently not that much. So I'm just looking at this and I'm wondering, okay, he had maybe the greatest rookie quarterback ever. He had good receivers for most of the season. He has a pretty good offensive line, and he produced results that were barely above average. Like at this point, just promote Shane Waldron and keep him in house. At least then you have continuity. I don't know, guys. What do you guys see in Bobby Slowik? What do you guys think? Um, this is kind of like the Dave Canales thing on steroids to me. Where Canales, it might be a little too early. With Slowik, I definitely feel like it's just a little too early. All right, let me hear it down below. Maybe there are going to be some big defenders of Bobby Slowik, which is cool. I mean, at this point, I'd probably rather do it than Dan Quinn after what happened yesterday, but again, I gotta say, I think we can do a little bit better, and I think we can take a little bit more of a sure thing here. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know.